Hello, everybody. This is Jerry Mateo with Music Marketing TV. Welcome back to another video. Today, we're taking a look at 3 plugins from Relab, and that is going to be 2 of their very powerful reverbs and 1 of their newest and really nice tube compressor. So let's just jump in and just take a look at the plugins, and then we'll dive deep into each one individually. The first one is going to be the Relab Rev6000. This is one of the closest recreations of the TC Electronic System 6000 that you can find out there on the market right now. And I think this is one of the most amazing reverbs I've ever heard. Everything that this thing does basically sounds pristine, clean, and clear at all times. You don't get any of that unwanted fuzz or unwanted artifacts. This thing is absolutely amazing. The next plugin is going to be the Relab LX480 version 4. This is the 4th version of this plugin, and this is the deluxe edition. This has all the bells and whistles. This is an amazing recreation of the Lexicon 480, and this thing is amazing. This is one of the best recreations out there on the market, whether it be native or DSP based. This thing is absolutely amazing, and because it is from Relab, it's 100% native. You don't need a piece of hardware to get something that sounds this good. And the final plugin we're going to be looking at in today's video is going to be the Relab 176. And this is a recreation of the Retro Instruments 176 limiting amplifier. It's an all-tube compressor and is actually an emulation of the Universal Audio's 176 tube compressor. So this is an emulation of an emulation that sounds absolutely amazing. And I think this has so much character and color. And this is actually quite a complex plugin, if I'm going to be honest with you. So let's just jump in. The first thing you'll see is on the top, we have our preset menu, right? We can choose our presets. We can even see some really, really nice factory presets from creators. We can create our own. Go to A, B section, copy A to B, undo, redo, and you have this really cool area where you can change your size, you can import and export your presets. You can do everything here, right? And then next we have our 3 operation modes: mono, stereo, and mid-side. Stereo and mid-side will increase your CPU because it is obviously processing both sides at once, but it's not just because it has to double up the properties or the processing power. It's because this thing recreates the original unit verbatim. And this unit was a mono unit. So in order to make it stereo, it has to recreate a whole second unit. And to do mid-side, it's doing the same thing. It's really, really well done. Now I'm going to set this in B mode, and we're going to see the overall UI. So we have our bypass right here. We have our options right here for our real-time or oversampling options, offline oversampling, as well as dark mode and light mode. Personally, I like dark mode, and then we have our OpenGL render on and off. In the center section, we have our VU meter, which you can turn into a VU meter or histogram. And if you click on this Relab button, it actually shows you the individual tube biasing, and that goes for each mode. This will allow you to control the preamp and power amp tubes individually and kind of calibrate how they are going to react. This is going to control everything from the saturation, from the compression knee and speed and reaction time, as well as even giving you a reference level right here. This is going to be your input gain to the plugin. This will not control or change your overall volume as much. This is more making the plugin more sensitive. To your left, you're going to have your stage coupling. Now, this emulates either transformer or resistor coupling. Basically, your input section, if it's going through a resistor or a transformer. You're going to notice that the transformer path is going to be a little bit tighter, and it's going to have a little bit more mid-range saturation, while the resistor is going to give you a slower attack, but a much flatter or essentially linear tone. The sidechain polarity, this is essentially giving you the positive or negative polarity when it's reacting to transients. If you have it in the middle, it's just straight stock, having both positive and negative in polarity. But if you invert the polarity to negative, you actually get more low end, while making it positive will give it a different, snappier tone. You'll get more tight transients, but a less pronounced low frequency. And this is really cool when you're having this set to something like bass or kick drum. You set this to negative and you get a lot more oomph, but it's not sounding like EQ. You actually get this really interesting, like dynamic low end. It's really cool. I love it. Next, we have our input gain. This is just going to be how hard are we hitting this unit. This unit works a lot like an 1176, especially because the 176 was the predecessor to the 1176. So you don't have a threshold. You actually just have an input gain that will hit the threshold, and then you use your output to compensate for that level gain. You have your ratios, 2-to-1, 4-to-1, 8-to-1, and 12-to-1. And then you have your calibration. Now, this is the tube bias and the balance shifting. And this is basically doing everything from harmonics to the threshold to everything. And this can actually give you some interesting artifacts when you're playing through it. If you have the calibration set to something pretty extreme, you can actually hear some like low end thump coming in. And that's actually what happens with the original unit. So Relab recreated even the defects of the original unit, which is really cool. Next, we have our attack and our sidechain high pass filter. This can be on and off, and this can go from 40 hertz all the way to 400 hertz. This will basically remove those frequencies from the detector circuit while still keeping them in the signal path. So you won't make your sound thinner, but the compressor will not respond to the low frequencies as much. Your attack control goes from slow to fast, and it is basically exactly like an 1176 or the 176, which this is based off of, where slow is on the left and fast is on the right. And under this, we actually have static or auto mode. Now, static mode basically takes your attack and release and makes it the attack and release. While auto mode will actually slightly slow down the attack if the detector sees that you're getting a little bit too much artifacts. This is basically going to give you a safety net on if you're not quite sure how to set things up, set it to auto and it'll take your settings as a basis and do minor adjustments under the hood and get you a much smoother sound. You have your output gain, and this is also where you have your calibration for your auto makeup. You click this button, you let the audio play once you have gain reduction, and it'll automatically set your levels according. And it's really cool. It'll just have a little gain right here that you can change. Let's say we have this at -12. This will not affect your output gain. It'll actually do a completely separate gain. You have your release control, which is from slow to fast, and then your mix knob, which gives you 100% wet or dry. Dry is on the left, wet is on the right. Very simple. So let's go ahead and let's take a listen to this. So we are again using the live performance from the artist Derek Love. His engineer name is Derek Olds. I'll have QR code here. This is a live performance we did where we used all of my equipment at his album release party. And this is his song, Woman. And I want to show you how this sounds before any compression. All my processing chain is pretty simple. We have Acon Digital to do some denoising. We have a tuning plugin, and then we have an F6. So we just have some EQ, some tuning, and nothing else. Let's take a listen to this and see how it sounds in the mix.
She is the only little bit of anything that I've had in my world. She came to save me. She slept in through my veins. She could be the only thing I'll ever.
So this was recorded on my Behringer Wing console. I recorded with no processing. So this is raw tracks coming out of my Phoenix Pro microphones. And you can hear the dynamics, right? If we solo this up.
She is the only little bit of anything that I've had in my world. She came to save me.
And I thought this would be a great example because a normal compressor would really be destroyed by this. This would need to be multiple stages of compression and limiting to make this sound good. But the Relab 176 is so good. We're going to dial in some settings. I want to get some compression. I want to make this basically do a ton of gain reduction. And I want this to just sound like a very smooth, clear vocal with a lot of character and no crazy pumping. So here we go. We'll turn it on and let's dial in the settings.
She is the only little bit of anything that I've had in my world.
So we're getting a ton of gain reduction. Let's change the attack and release a little bit.
She is the only little bit of anything that I've had in my world.
We'll reduce the ratio.
She is the only little bit of anything.
And then I'm going to change the sidechain polarity because I want it to have a little bit more of a snappy response. I'm also going to change the coupling maybe to a resistor path because this is going to be a little bit slower, so I can increase the speed and or decrease the speed, make it a little bit faster, and get a smoother transition.
She is the only little bit of anything that I've had in my world. She came to save me.
Sounds cool. Same volume too. Let's bypass it.
She is the only little bit of anything that I...
Right there is very obvious. It does not disappear anymore.
She is the only little bit of anything that...
Cool. Let's put this in the mix. We'll bypass it and we'll turn it back on, and let's just see what we've done.
She is the only little bit of anything that I've had in my world. She came to save me.
Okay, let's turn it on.
She is the only little bit of anything that I've had in my world. She came to save me.
I love that. It has made it very, very consistent, but it's still dynamic feeling because you can still feel the tube style compression just moving up and down. It's got a really cool sound, and it's added a little bit of like a high frequency-ness, like some sparkle to it. I like it. It's giving me a nice tone. It's not weighted too much. It doesn't add too much low end or too much high end. It does feel like it is actually giving me a little bit more mids and smoothing it out. I love it. So now we're good with the vocal. It's time to add some reverb. And for the reverb, I have to do this. I love using Lexicon reverbs for vocals, and nothing is going to beat the LX480 version 4. Now, this is a complete recreation of the Lexicon 480, and this is everything. We even have hardware mode where you can see the UI where it shows you exactly how the hardware controller looked like. For those of you who don't know, this is actually just the controller. It's essentially the joystick. And there's actually a giant rack unit that's like, it's like half of my racks right here worth of size. And it's just in a different room doing all the processing. This is a dual reverb unit, meaning that you actually have two algorithms. You have algorithm 1 and algorithm 2. This is going to be two completely different settings, and you can change anything in both of these settings. You even have lots of presets that have dual engine presets, modern, original factory presets, as well as single engine presets. So if you want to have a little bit less of a CPU hit, you can use the single engine presets. The original factory presets sound absolutely amazing, and the dual engine just gives you a lot of lush character and tones. But this is version 4 of this plugin. This is very optimized and does not eat up a ton of CPU, especially for the quality. So the first thing that I want to do, let's solo up the vocal. Let's load a default preset. We'll go to original, and it's a vocal, right? So I probably want to have a hall. Let's try a jazz hall. Let's see how this sounds, and let's see what we can do to tweak it.
She is the only little bit of anything that I've had in my world. She came to save me.
I really shouldn't have just picked a random preset because I was hoping it would need a lot of tweaking, but that sounded fantastic. So I think what we're going to have to do is let's just jump into it, right? The first thing, where do you select your algorithms? Right here where it says hall is actually where all your algorithms are going to be stored. So if I go to plate/room.
She is the only little bit of anything that I've had in my world.
Really cool. Let's try the twin delays.
She is the only little bit.
So the twin delays is actually using the delay engine of the lexicon, right? So for this, you actually have to go into every other section because you'll see where it has ERTM. This is where you're going to have your left delay. 1, 2, 3. These are all your delay values, right? Then you're going to go here, and this is going to be the level of the delays.
She is the only little bit of anything that I've had in my world. She came to save me.
And it has such a cool vintage tone. I really love using these as just delays. We have our panorama.
She is the only little bit of,
which is kind of more like a little subtle, like a pre-delay kind of sound. We have random hall.
She is the only little bit of anything.
And we have other stuff. We have real hall HD. We have ambience. Ambient reverbs are my favorite. On my Behringer Wing, on DM7s, on Digicos, I love ambient reverbs. So whenever I do live sound, I'm always the A1 or the front of house or the monitor mixer. I use ambient reverbs all the time.
She is the only little bit of anything that I've had in my world.
Love it. So now we can go into the early reflection section, right? And we can tune this up. We can change the early reflections or the echoes, see where they're going, see what they're going to do, and how they're going to respond to things. We can turn them up and down in this spectrum. And this is where we can add a lot of color. In this case, I kind of like this jazz hall sound, so I don't want to change the early reflections because I'm not going to use them. But then we also have the time and frequency domain. And depending on our preset, we're actually going to have different options here. But this is basically your crossover point on where you're going to have more bass frequencies multiplying in the reverb, where they're going to cut off, and how they're going to respond. So you can see all that right here. And that also goes into, I believe it is the time section where you have your reverb time for the mid, bass multiply, bass frequency crossover, which you can see change, your high frequency multiply, and then your high frequency crossover, as well as your reverb filter type. So you have 6 dB octave slopes, 12 dB octave slopes. Very simple. This is basically the tightness of your crossover. You have your filter frequency, which is really simple. You just click and drag this over, or you can see that it's right here on the cut section for the low and high cut. Go to filter, and you'll see it right here. All of these parameters that you find inside of this are also controlled right here. And a cool thing is if you hit this button again, it will give you a separate setting. So you can actually have 2 separate presets and just click through them. But let's go ahead and let's find a sound. So I'm going to go for a hall. We're going to use that jazz hall.
She is the only little bit of anything.
I'm going to change the chorus type, add some chorus and some depth.
She is the only little bit of anything that I've had in my world.
Cool. I'm going to go to the density. I don't think we need to have too much optimization on everything, but I do want to have things kind of randomized a little bit. We're going to go to the shaping. We're going to spread this out differently and make it a different size.
She is the only little bit of anything that I've had in my world. She came to save me. She is the only little bit of anything that I've had in my world. She came to save me. She slept in through my veins. She could be the only thing I'll ever need. My pleasure, my pain.
Okay, I kind of dig that, but I think I'm going to go for an ambience algorithm.
She is the only little bit of anything.
Okay, that sounds pretty cool. I'm going to also go into my modulation section, and we are going to change the high frequencies a little bit. We want to have a little bit less high frequencies.
She is the only little bit of anything that I've had in my world. She came to save me.
I like that. I think that sounds fantastic. Let's put this in the mix and see how it sounds.
She is the only little bit of anything that I've had in my world. She came to save me. She slept in through my veins. She could be the only thing I'll ever need. My pleasure, my pain.
Cool. So I like that. I think that has a cool tone and vibe to it. Keep in mind that I'm not going for the most energetic or the most realistic reverb. I want that vintage colored lexicon. This track is very, very, very like just all about vibe. So that's what we're going for. Next, we're going to do the drums. The drums were recorded very cleanly using universal audio microphones. Let's listen to them really quickly. Now, these sound great, and they probably would have been better for the Lexicon because drums just sound amazing on the Lexicon. But I know that the Rev6000 sounds amazing on vocals. I've used it before. I know it sounds great. I want to see this on the drums. So let's grab a new instance. And this is the stock standard preset. We'll turn on the reverb send for the snares and for the room mics. Let's take a listen. Wow, that has such a pristine sound. Let's listen to it on just the snare. Really cool, very airy, has a really cool sound, but I feel like that decays too much. Let's also change the location. So this has different options. For your main settings, you have your location, so the algorithm of the place, your early reflection color, your low frequency color, your high frequency color, and your decrease. Now this is going to control how sparse things are. It's going to make things basically have different types of reflections. It's really cool. It kind of tames certain frequencies that are a little bit too harsh. You have your pre-delay, you have your high frequency cut, which is all the way down to 2 kilohertz, your size, and your decay. Going into your advanced menu, it's very simple, still very easy. Early reflections, this is when they start. So if you actually increase this, what's going to happen is your early reflection will kind of slip into the sound. So it's not just going to be like, ba-ba, right? It'll be like, bah. It has this really cool, like almost like a whooshing sound. The early reflection stop is if you have it set to 100, it'll just stop when it's supposed to stop. Or if you cut it off, it'll basically kind of decay out. It's really cool, great for special effects, and really good for post-production. That's why people use this actual reverb that this is based off of for post-production, because it's just so good. You have your reverb types. So you have colored, normal, diffusion, your size, your modulation, your output. So you can have it in stereo or dual mono, center on and off, channel decay, everything from your left and right. Very simple unit. And you'll see that everything is here. You're able to control it all here. You have your time and frequency control. And this is where you can have more control than on the Lexicon. The 480 did not have crossovers for all of these frequencies. This separates it into low frequencies, low mid, high mid, and highs. It's really cool. Very simple plugin though. Look at this. This is based off of an extremely expensive piece of hardware. It is really simple. So let's use the snare. I'm going to change the color for the early reflections. And now I want to change the algorithm. I really like the Vienna Hall A. It sounds great. Let's change our reverb type. We want to go for colored, and let's change the diffusion and the size. Cool. So now let's go to the modulation. Now we have different types. We have off, defaults, front, rear, subtle. We have a bunch of stuff, right? We're just going to go to front to rear, set it at a slower rate and a high depth. And let's change the output. This actually changes the sound quite a bit. Notice that when I change the format from stereo to dual mono literally sounds like it ping pongs, like it goes like, while stereo is like, it like blooms out. I like dual mono. I think it sounds really cool. And this is why I'm going to change just ever so slightly the decay. I'm going to turn off center because I want to have a little bit of that oomph. But have the center kind of a little bit clearer. I don't want to change anything else. I think that sounds fantastic. Let's listen to that in the mix.
She is the only little bit of anything that I've had in my world. She came to save me. She slept in through my veins. She could be the only thing I'll ever need. My pleasure, my pain. She is my woman. She is my woman. My little girl. She's my little girl.
Really cool. This really did a great job of bringing some life into everything. So what I want to do, we'll bypass all of our reverbs and we'll bypass the Relab 176. And let's listen to it and then we'll bring it back in, and you're really going to hear how it brought everything to life very easily and very pristinely. I did make the vocal reverb a little bit thin sounding, so I think I'm going to actually just go back to the original Jazz Hall preset, and I'm going to change it from a hall to a ambience because I really liked where it was before. So that's just me correcting my own mistakes. Let's listen to before and then after.
She is the only little bit of anything that I've had in my world. She came to save me. She slept in through my veins. She could be the only thing I'll ever need. My pleasure, my pain. She is my woman. She is my woman. My little girl.
What I really like about the compressor is right there where you hear it, where the compression squeezes in on that scream. It does not sound over compressed. It just brings it all together. It hugs it. It acts just like a tube compressor. I wish I had the money to own more tube gear. I only have one tube compressor, but tube compressors are so nice. And Relab, knocked it out of the park. This thing is absolutely amazing. That's going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. This is Jerry Mateo with Music Marketing TV. Again, leave comments, like, subscribe, and I will hopefully see you guys next time. Bye.